Hey friends, Pastor Michael from Organic Church, here with Sydney Erickson, Don Reed, Beth Jarvis, Nick Offholter, and Pastor Roger Deerdorf. I'll tell you, last week really messed with me. I got all worked up in the audio stuff watching it. I forgot what I was even doing. Like, it just kind of kept coming out, and yeah, that didn't end well, but that's okay. That's okay.
Sounded okay.
Well, at least they can hear it.
Yeah, they can definitely. If they can't hear that, there's a problem.
I can even hear that.
That was well. Yeah. It takes an atomic bomb for Roger to hear it. But all right, has your faith impacted your view of money, wealth, or worldly goods? Ready, set, go. And where are the crickets? Beth, you have to start.
Dawn
You've
and
got
Beth show.
Why do I have to start?
Tonight
You
is
got
the
all
Dawn
the
and Beth
notes.
show.
You got a notebook. And
Not just that. You said you're afraid to butt in, so now you have to start.
Now I have to start.
Now you have to start.
Then I don't have to worry about butting in.
Correct.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I got
I
it.
try to butt in.
So
but
which
I
would you
don't have a
rather?
Very good job.
Well, first of all, my view of money since I have been saved is that I always make sure God gets his first 10%.
Mm-hmm.
Always, always, always. Even when we weren't in a church,
So,
I made sure he got his 10%.
gross or net?
I don't know.
So there are people that split hairs down to that. Like, well, do you give on your gross or on your net? I don't care. Like, I think if God has told you make it your gross,
Yeah.
you make it your gross.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
I don't. Yeah.
I think mine's my net and Jarvis is his gross.
Well, here's my theory. Jesus told the people to pay unto Caesar what is due to Caesar. And so if they're taking taxes out, I give off of the first 10% that I get. He gets the first 10% of whatever I get. Because I don't even see the gross. I don't even honestly at this point know what it is because I've never looked. So, but anyhow, go ahead.
I don't know. You got me on the spot. Now you got me all nervous.
Well, while she's thinking, Matthew 6:19-21 says, "Do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth."
Yes.
right.
And
Dot.
can you elaborate?
Yes. That's like you see the little text bubble come up in the text. You're waiting for something else and then nothing happens. Yeah.
Well, I can tell you, I do have a story the same. When I was a new Christian, I wasn't tithing my 10%.
Mm-hmm.
I was a separated mom raising 2 teenagers, and I'm robbing Peter to pay Paul. How was I going to tithe 10%?
Yeah.
I just didn't know how I was going to do that. So I didn't. I threw $10 in the plate, $20 in the plate.
Yeah.
You know, I can spare this week. That's all I can spare. Then our pastor did a sermon on the widow who tithed her 2 mites.
Yep.
But still, I'm thinking, God, I don't think I can do it.
Yeah.
I'm scared. I don't know how I'm going to meet my bills. So I didn't. Still throwing 10, 20 in the plate. He preaches another sermon on Acts 5. Ananias and his wife. Is that where they sold their land and lied
about it.
Said that they gave everything that they made.
Yep.
And they didn't. And they were.
Yeah. Didn't end well.
No, it didn't end well. And I'm thinking, God, okay, I'm getting the picture. I'm supposed to tithe my 10%.
Yeah.
Or it's not going to
Were
end
those
well.
two messages back to back?
They were not.
I was going to
I was
say,
just for her.
Tithes must have been low that
They
month.
were not. They were not back to back.
Yeah,
It was probably a few months apart. But I was starting to get the picture.
Mm-hmm.
I knew my daughter didn't want to go to college. My son did. I thought, how am I going to pay for that? God, how am I going to pay to put my kid through school?
Yeah.
So prayed about it, started putting in my 10%. Faithfully started putting in my 10%. My son wanted to go to Muskingum. It was expensive.
Yeah.
But we went and visited Muskingum. They called him back to sit for the John Glenn Scholarship. And he sat for the John Glenn Scholarship while I sat in the auditorium praying, God, please.
Yeah.
Called us back within 2 days that he had gotten the John Glenn Scholarship. And I thought, praise you, Jesus. I did. I faithfully started to tithe my 10%, and my son had a full academic ride scholarship.
Yeah.
And I've been faithfully tithing Ever since.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Beth and I were exchanging some text messages today and the difference between tithing and giving. And we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight, I'm sure. But I have a very similar, well, it's not very similar, but I have a kind of that war story on tithing as well. This is a fun one that probably nobody knows about me. So Alyssa and I have been attending here for, I don't know, like a million years. Like we were here when Jesus died, I'm pretty sure. But this has been the only church I've ever attended regularly. So when we moved to Columbus after we got married, we attended a few churches down there, but we church hopped. We didn't have a home. When we moved back here, we were givers. We were not tithers. We were givers. And again, same situation. We were like, money was tight. We didn't have a whole lot extra. We had, at the time, we had 4 kids. And then, you know, Adeline was born in the midst of all of that. And the great part was, like, we were never without, or never were we, like, ever struggling, but just enough. And I remember Florence calling me and saying, hey, I want to talk to you about getting a license and potentially taking over the church. So Alyssa said to me, she goes, well, if we do this, we have to tithe. Like, that's just, like, we can't not tithe if that's the case.
Yeah.
So we start the conversations, we start the process, we start tithing immediately. And we're both like, this is dumb. Like, you write that check and you're, ouch, how are we, like, that's money that we needed to buy groceries or needed to pay bills. So we started tithing regularly, and I decided that once went into ministry, I was going to quit my job. It was going to be full-time ministry. I was not going to be bivocational. I put in a 4-week notice. 3 days into that 4-week notice, I get a call from one of the guys that I'm working with now, and he said, hey, we need somebody to fill in for one of the shows. Can you come out, sit, watch the part, and potentially fill in for the show? And I said, sure, no problem. So I went out, I met them. They put me like center of the auditorium to watch this Elvis and Johnny Cash bit. And without saying anything mean, the Elvis was terrible. And like, I was like, what? This is what we produce here. This is not good. But so afterwards, they were like, hey, how do you feel? And I'm like, oh, this is fine. You know, this is not a big deal. We can handle this. And then the one owner said, but by the way, we have a hotel job open if you're interested. And I said, well, funny story. I just put in a 4-week notice at where I'm at currently. And he said, can we go upstairs and talk? So my wife and I went upstairs and we sat in one of the meeting rooms and we negotiated a contract agreement with them. At the end of my 4 weeks, I started working for the company that I'm with now.
Yeah.
So I was making, and I don't mind sharing any of this, I was making at my other job, I was managing multiple hotels across 3 counties. And I was making $42,000 a year, which was nothing to sneeze at the time. I don't have a degree in hospitality or anything like that. So everything is self-taught. And I was like, that's as good as I'm going to be able to do. So I start working where I'm working now. Negotiated a salary that was fair. Again, it was part-time. I was only going to be there 3 days a week, but was just going to help fill in the gaps from what we weren't making anymore.
Yeah.
4 weeks in, I'm getting an offer to be the GM of the property. And I'm like, that's not what I signed up for. And then I told them I'm making a 2-year commitment. At the end of 2 years, that's it for me. I want to be full-time ministry. I don't know, 4 weeks after that, I'm managing their cabin properties. Now we have 70 of those cabins. We've bought another hotel, and I'm making 6 figures.
Yeah.
So, like,
Praise the Lord.
God has been good to us, but he wasn't real good to us until we started being real good to him.
Right.
And it's crazy when we realized how dumb we were being about it. Like 10% is nothing compared to what he had given us at that point. And so when I say, oh, now I'm making 6 figures, the church gets so much of it, it's stupid at this point. Like, we don't keep in excess. We don't keep more than what we need. We donate more often than we don't. You know, when there's a program or we're doing something, Alyssa and I are always the first. I shouldn't say that, but a lot of times we're quick to give to whatever the project is. We've paid for toilets that have gone into the building, just
TVs, printers,
whatever. We know we need it, and the church can't always afford to spend the money on it. So we'll just make sure it happens, and then we're happy with what God blesses us with. So, yeah.
I can remember a time that Jarvie and I were struggling. He had the pallet shop before, and then after Eric passed away, he closed the pallet shop, and he went back to a weld shop, which we were starving. Not really, but we thought we were. But
compared to now,
our electric was going to be shut off, and I was like, "What are we going to do?" I said, I've never had a utility shut off in my life. And I said, we just can't tithe this week. He's like, oh no, we're tithing.
Yeah.
I'm like, we can't. And he's like, but we are. So
we'll go hungry before we rob
tithed that money.
Yeah.
And I fretted and stewed. The day that my electric was to be shut off, I go into work and my boss was handing out thank you cards to all the nurses. And right there inside that was $100 bill, exactly what I needed to keep my electric on.
Yeah.
It just, he provided.
Yep. Yep. And you can't even wrap your head around that. And it's not always financial provisions as well. I think that's important to talk about when you're talking about money and tithes and giving and things like that. You know, sometimes it's good health, which sounds crazy, but you take it for granted because it's not a financial blessing. Well, I've been giving and I haven't gotten anything, but you're on 2 feet. You got 2 feet and a heartbeat, right?
Yes.
Like you're able
Absolutely.
It's like
to function.
I look at a lot of people my age. They
can't
just,
hear.
Well, hey,
If that's the least.
But at least I can still go out.
Right.
And I can work 40 hours.
Well, and think
Yes.
about all of the other stuff you do. You know, when we lay carpet, you crawl around on the floor in here. You're up in the attic. Like you do all of those things. Not a lot of people your age, like you said, can do that.
No.
So
And I'm blessed like that.
Yeah.
You know.
for sure.
We started meeting with a financial advisor last year. He's one of Chase's father-in-law's friends, but he's also a Christian man. And almost just his way of looking at things, you know, we've got like a bigger bank to where my money directly goes there, but then I know how much money I need to take out. So, because you would look at things like, okay, anything left over, I'm going to save.
Yeah.
Like that's just what people think. And it's like, you kind of do the opposite. You're going to put that straight into that savings account, which is that bank, and then you're going to
just take what you need.
And like the first thing that I take what I need is that tithe.
Yeah.
You know, so
That's
it's just like a different mindset, I guess.
Yeah, it's not technically a Dave Ramsey rule, but the concept is make your money work for you.
Yes.
Don't work for your money. Whatever you get, that money should be already doled out to what it's going to pay.
Right.
Like, and then anything beyond that is what I'm going to put aside and what I'm going to keep. Yeah, Alyssa and I have never been great savers.
Neither.
Let me
haven't
rephrase
either.
that. I have never been a good saver.
Ralph at Roseland's, when I worked for him, I wish I would have listened to him when I was young.
Yes.
Because he always told me, pay yourself first.
Yes. Yeah.
But I didn't do that, of course. But but it was such great advice.
So Alyssa and I, as we've started to save, we're like, and we're saving because our hope would be that we can someday potentially buy another house, keep the one that we have as a rental, buy a bigger house, whatever.
Yep.
Now we're both kind of in the mindset that, you know, you do the math, you look at our kids' age, they're all going to grow up. We're likely not going to put ourselves in a position to buy a new house at that point. We can die in that house. Like I don't ever need to buy another one.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that I wouldn't or that I won't. I'm saying that if my mindset is always buy a new house, we should buy a new house. What am I going to do? I'm going to be on Zillow looking for a new house. And I'm going to end up with a mortgage that's more than the mortgage that I'm paying. Listen, like 2.5% interest rate on the current house.
Yeah.
What's my interest rate going to be now? 7.5%, 8%, something like that?
Yeah.
Like, you can't even fathom how the payment will change just based on that interest change.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, part of it is changing the mindset that I don't have to spend everything that I make. I can save some of it. And since we've started to do that, we've been able to, we've been having quotes for putting in new windows. Our house was built in the 50s. It's got sliding sideways windows.
Oh, yeah.
Fun fact, if you're listening and you know where I live, none of my windows lock. Not one, because of the way they're made, they just don't lock. So, you know.
They probably haven't been opened in forever, though.
Well, her and I will open them when the weather gets nice. But like, there's 3 or 4 that you have to really shove on them to get them to open even a little bit because they've swollen in the jams.
Yeah.
So,
Well, Milo hears somebody trying to break in.
yeah, well, what are you going to do, lick him to death? He ain't smart enough to bite anybody. Unless, of course, you've got his toy in your hand, and then he'll bite you.
I'll be the little one that bites.
Yeah, Lucy. She'll gum you to death. She got no teeth. Goodness.
But a verse that Jarvie and I always went back to was Proverbs 3:9. Honor the Lord with your wealth and with the best part of everything you produce. Then he will fill your barns with grain and your vats will overflow with good wine.
That's right.
And we all love wine.
I don't.
No.
Me neither.
No.
Well, And again, it's all about perspective and how you look at it. If you do, so one of the sayings that I always say to my kids is do what's right, not what's easy.
Exactly.
Yes.
Do what's right, not what's easy. It is always easier to lie, to steal, to keep, to covet.
Yeah.
It's those are easy to do. The world will teach you how to do those, and they're going to give you ample opportunity to do
Absolutely.
them. But if you do what is right, it will always take a little bit of self-discipline. And again, I wish I would have known that much younger in life. My wife and I, we were financially sound for the first part of our marriage. Now, mind you, we only had Aaron and Aiden, my two oldest, every other weekend. I worked a decent job. She was going to school. We had plenty of money.
Yeah.
We saved none of it. Not a dime of it. We were like, savings account. Who has a savings account? Who can afford to save anything? But we never cooked at home. We always ate out. If you look back at that now, you're like, what were we even thinking?
Yeah. Or you put it in the savings account, and
And
there's
then you
always
take
some
it out.
reason to take it out.
Yeah, no, we didn't even get that far. I remember, this is not a joke. I remember the first time Alyssa and I put $500 in our savings account, and it stayed there for more than 40 days. I was like, Alyssa, I think we can actually do this. And she was like, I know. And listen, I got on the other day. So we have two savings accounts. We bank with Huntington, and we have one with Huntington, and it's for like quick cash. So we'll put something in there for the windows. We have money sitting there to do the windows that we can pull quickly. And then we have an online savings through Discover, which takes a little bit longer to get your money if you need it. The reason we did that was because then it wasn't an instant transfer.
That's how my place is. And I'm like, because it'll take like 3 to 7 business days.
Yeah.
So.
I can want all I want,
Yep.
but I know it's not going to be there in time. So we purposely kind of sat on that. And so it's attached to my Discover card. I opened my Discover card the other day to make the payment. I saw how much was in our savings account. I went, holy smokes, how have we done this? But it's just discipline. Like my wife moves money. Like we have automatic recurring deposits. So it moves money from the checking account over to that savings account. We don't see it. It doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
So I'm not a financial advisor, but I'm saying if you can start saving, the earlier you can save, the better off you are.
Yep.
I was watching somebody who said if at like 20 years old you start saving,
Oh, yeah.
you can you can almost triple.
That's a Dave Ramsey.
Yeah,
Yes.
triple the amount of money that you have in your savings account at retirement age.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Again, not a financial advisor. We don't invest at this point. That's something that we want to start next year.
But if you're interested in rentals, that is an investment.
Yes.
So
Yeah. Well, I'm nervous to I want to stuff my money in my mattress. Like, I just don't. I don't like. I don't know.
that's what we're into. Like our long-term goal is to get to like 25,000 in the savings account. That way we can have cushion money for emergency, and then we can start throwing money in stocks and stuff.
exactly.
We know nothing about them,
Yeah.
but we trust him to say, hey, this is what's going on.
Yeah.
And I mean, we still have a while to get there, but
Yeah. That's the way.
that's a long-term goal.
That's the way we are. We're looking at when you start thinking about investing.
That's a gamble.
Where do you even start?
Where do you-
You have to. If you're going to go to a financial advisor, it has to be somebody that you trust.
Right.
Because
Right.
I mean, there was a bank in Sugar Creek. Some Amish guy started a bank in Sugar Creek, and I mean, the bank went belly up in 6 or 8 months, and he had hundreds of thousands of dollars. He was just making bad investments. So, and I don't know what he was investing in. Maybe tractor tires or something. I don't know, but it was like
Horses.
horses, right?
Bunnies.
Yeah, and it ended up upside down, and I mean, you're just out that money.
Yeah.
And I have a friend who was involved in it, so he ended up taking an absolute beating. But, so we were looking at. Have you guys heard of Robinhood?
Yeah.
So allegedly, you can invest there and do pretty decently. But Alyssa was listening to a guy who said, absolutely not. Never should you ever use something that looks easy like that, because it looks easy, but they're getting something out of it. It's not free for sure.
Yeah.
So I was talking to one of the guys at work who has always invested, and that's all he does.
Is on Robinhood?
He's on Robinhood.
Really?
And he's up 25% this year. Yeah, he had his thumb over the total dollar amount. But he's like, look, he's scrolling on all the stuff that he's invested in. He's not losing money anywhere. And he's up 25%. He said, nobody locally is returning investments like that. So I don't know. But
Do your research,
Maybe when you
definitely.
cash out, maybe they take huge fees. I
Maybe,
don't know.
yeah.
But yeah, it
Or
definitely.
if you cash out earlier. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely do your homework. But
Yeah.
that's so we didn't, again, we were saved before we were saving. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, we knew Jesus before we knew a savings account. But it is crazy to think that how much that, like, when we fully committed, when we said we're going to do this, the difference that he showed us. And again, it hasn't always been money. I like, let's attest to just having a baby girl for the first time in 34 years in our family at that point.
Yeah.
Like, we all wanted a girl. All of us wanted a girl. And we just didn't think it was ever going to happen. And then Alyssa gets pregnant with Adeline. Like, we were blessed through all of that.
Yeah.
So it's not always money.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Lots of dead space tonight. Lots of dead space.
Well, and I think too, when God prompts us to do something, whether it's monetary or, your neighbor needs milk and bread,
yeah.
you'd better go give that milk and bread.
Yeah.
Or if you're at the gas station and God says, you pay for that tank of gas,
Oh, yeah.
you go in and you pay for that tank of gas.
I've got a wild one for you on gas specifically, but you can finish.
And same, McDonald's, you're at the drive-thru,
Yeah.
pay for the meal in front of you or behind you.
Yeah.
Whatever.
One of the things that I always say about the drive-through lane, I don't ever do it at Starbucks. Here's my reason. Starbucks is expensive. Typically, if you're in line, that's a luxury.
Yeah.
Right? If you're in line, you
Yeah.
probably don't need me to pay for your
Yeah.
Starbucks. But at McDonald's, if you ever pay for the car behind you, you have no idea. That could be a struggling mom trying to feed her kids, and it's a lot cheaper for her to feed her kids at McDonald's than it is for her to give them something healthy from the store.
Yes.
Right?
Exactly.
So we're not
Sad.
saying, I'm not like,
Yeah.
eating fast food is not ideal, but it's still probably cheaper for her to feed her family that way. So
Yes.
I'd never even blink about that.
Yeah.
Okay, crazy gas station story for you. I just had lunch with Pastor Rod from Denison Foursquare. He said that he pulled into Certified to pump gas in his truck, and he was standing there and he said this car like screams into the parking lot, and it just like stops at the pump next to him, and the window comes down just a crack, and this lady inside is just absolutely hysterical. She's crying, she's screaming, she's just absolutely hysterical, and she's waving a $20 bill out the window and is begging him to go pump her gas, to pay and pump her gas because she's afraid for her life. She's afraid to get out of the car. She needs to get away, but she can't do it unless somebody So
Yeah.
Rod's like, yeah, sure, I'll do that for you. And he ran and he paid, and he came back and he pumps her gas for her. And he says, I can tell you're obviously very upset. Can I pray for you? And she wouldn't roll down the window, but he prayed for her, standing there with her, prayed for her. And then he said 2 days later, he gets a Facebook message. Now, he is not a Facebook person, but he has Messenger. He gets a Facebook message from somebody that says, were you the guy that pumped my gas at the gas station the other day?
What?
And he said, yes. How do you know me? And she said, she never specified how she knew him, but she said that I was on the phone with a friend, and I was telling him I needed gas pumped, and he said, pull into the next gas station. You're going to get a blessing. Just pull into the next gas station. And so he happened to be there, happened to be that blessing. Now, while he didn't do anything major, but then she knew who he was from something. And so he said to me, he told me her name. He's like, do you know who she is? And I'm like, I looked her up. I'm like, I have no idea who this person is. I don't have any mutual friends with her. So
Wow.
you would think that there would be some connection somewhere,
from this
but
town.
nothing.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
That's crazy.
yeah, crazy blessing.
Yes.
Yeah, like
you
you
didn't
said.
find out what she was afraid of?
No, nope. She would, the conversation went cold after she said thank you and that she knew who he was. Like that conversation just kind of
Wow.
tapered off. So,
And that just shows like it's not always financial, you know? Like
Yep.
he was just happened to be there. Hey, I'll go in, pay, and
yeah.
pump it for you.
Yep. Yep.
Wow.
It is really bizarre to think how, when we're placed somewhere, just being obedient, how much of a difference that makes.
Yes.
And so, Dawn and Beth, both of you, this was not like, this has been my home forever. You were here. You've been here for quite some time. Nick, you've been here for a long time. Roger, you've been here for a long time. And so when you show up here and you really like, okay, I'm settled in, and you can really start to give or understand like the importance of what it's doing for the congregation, the community as a whole, it really does make a difference on how much easier it makes it to be able to give back.
Oh yeah.
Well, prosperity truly is a blessing from God.
Yeah.
I mean, it truly is. Because, Pastor Holly makes us choose a word for the year. And this year mine was prosperity. And I'm like, why? Why? But I'm thinking, why not?
Right.
Yeah.
Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord.
Yes.
Plans to prosper you, not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future.
Yeah.
That's my verse.
Yep.
Standing on that one this year.
That's one of my favorites. There are a few verses in the Bible that, like, when you really read them, they resonate.
Mhm.
That's always been
And,
one
like,
of them
all the
for me.
time.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
always been one for me.
What I feel like this can go different ways. The question. So
Okay.
can you say it again?
Yeah. Has your faith impacted your view of money, wealth, or worldly goods? Has your faith impacted your view of money, wealth, or worldly
Okay.
goods? I will say this. On the worldly goods side,
That's what I was trying to.
it has been hard for me to give up the gimme, gimme, gimme.
Right. Yeah.
Because I have always been that way. And I'm instant gratification kind of guy.
Mhm.
When I see it, I want it. I don't want to wait on it. I'll put it on a credit card and deal with that later.
Mhm.
Right?
Right.
Because it's so easy.
Yeah. And then future self is like, what did
What
you do?
were you doing? Why did you even think that was necessary?
My
And
dad raised us. If you can't pay cash for it, you don't need it.
now, here's the problem. I can make 100 reasons why I do need it, but I just can't afford to pay cash. But I've got an interest-free credit card. But how often do you ever pay it off before they hit you with the interest?
My
You know-
senior year, my first credit card, my first leather jacket.
See?
I needed it.
See, you
I
needed it.
needed
Couldn't live without it. That's what I'm saying. Like jumpsuits, you can't live without jumpsuits. But
I'm the same way as you, Michael, but I would make these. I shouldn't say an excuse because in some ways I'm right. Whenever I was buying, I'm like, oh, this is an investment. I'm going to
Dude.
buy this, and it's going to be worth, 5 times as much for 10 years.
You two and
So
Chase.
I'm, I know what I'm doing.
yeah,
Problem is still when you're stretching what you have to buy it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Putting yourself
yeah.
in a hole. Yeah, it might do you good later, but it's hurting
And then
you right now.
are you
So
actually going to like sell it later on
No.
and make
Yeah,
an
and then,
investment?
yeah, you don't
no,
wanna let it
you're
go.
not.
Well, even then, sometimes I do want to let it go. So, for instance, this again, just bear with me. I buy a lot of really weird stuff at online auctions when I get the opportunity. And there's this place in Cleveland it's a giant warehouse. When you go there to pick up your stuff, he rolls up this garage door, and as far as the eye can see, it's piles of junk. And I'm talking like junk, like the worst kind of junk that one could have. The smell is horrendous. There's probably dead rats for miles under this stuff. It just smells horrid. And I had the opportunity to buy a McCormick Elvis bust that has whiskey in it. Not very often do you find them still sealed with the whiskey inside because you can't ship liquids.
Oh yeah.
So when you find one online, typically the seal has been broken, it's been empty. And
Was
this
that from like the 70s
yes,
or what?
yes. So it's about, I don't know, it's decent sized and it's pretty heavy. And I got the opportunity to buy it and I didn't pay a whole lot for it. And I was like, this is a great deal. And that's what I kept telling myself. This is great. So I buy it. I go up, I pick it up, I bring it home. It's on display in my office. And I'm like, you know what? That takes up a lot of shelf space. I'm going to sell it. And I know I can get more than I paid for it, right? No, nobody wants it. Do you know why nobody wants it? Because it's ugly. It is the most horrific thing in the world. But
well,
in
and
my
you can't
mind,
ship it now.
right? And
so now
it
you
has
have to
be a local buyer.
pickup.
Has to be a local buyer. So like somehow I had convinced myself that this was an investment and that I would be able to sell it. It is not an investment. It is junk. It is, and I got so much of it, so much of it.
Yep, I know that all too well.
But so the worldly goods thing is really hard for me
Yeah.
because I think of like even the MacBook that's sitting in front of me. I desperately wanted a new MacBook. I did a trade up. So my dad's friend from Mississippi when he was in the military had an old MacBook and it was running like OS Lion, which is vintage. And I snatched it up for $50 and I thought for $50 you can't go wrong. So I order it or I pay him for it. He ships it to me. I get it, set it up. Everything's fine. But I'm like, it's just old. I want a newer one, right? Because like there were some apps you couldn't download anymore. And so I list the thing online for $150 and I have a girl buy it right away. And I'm like, you could turn this into a business. You get them for the right price, you flip them, right? So I do that with 3 more until I'm just about square on buying a brand new one. Okay? So I get to the point where I can buy a new one, but I can't get a MacBook Pro. I have to get a MacBook Air and I can only get the 13-inch. But I could not wait. I had to have it, right? So I order it. I drive all the way to Akron to pick it up. Buy it, get it home. I have it for 7 months somewhere, probably not even that long. I walk into the pawn shop in Dover, which is my happy place, by the way. This MacBook Pro, 17-inch, $600. A fraction of what I paid for that brand new one. I sold that brand new one for $600 to pay for this one. Now, how stupid was that?
Yeah.
But it's that like instant gratification. And so I really struggle with that worldly goods thing. I always have. Like that's always been, and I've said this before, I believe that is ingrained in me. Like that was taught to me by my mom. She is still that way. She sent me a picture today. If she listens to this, she'll choke me for saying these things, but she sent me a picture today of her craft room. And so when I say craft room, my mom and I have been through scrapbooking binges when that was popular.
Oh yeah.
We had probably 1,000 pounds of paper,
Wow.
scrapbook paper.
Yeah.
We'd go to the store, it was on sale, you just buy one of everything, right?
Because it's so cheap.
Right.
Yeah.
Just towers, just stacks and
Yeah.
stacks of scrapbook paper. We had all of the die cut machines and all of this stuff, but it was junk. Like it all phases out so quickly.
Right. Yeah.
So she sold all of that and now she's making those plastic tumblers.
Oh, yes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and everybody's making them, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Everybody's making them. So she says, I think I have a cup problem. And she sends me a picture of the corner of her craft room. And it is boxes and boxes and boxes of cups, mugs, different types so that she can make these things. And I'm like, she's got a disease. But wait, so do I. And but it really takes a long time for you to process that. So I have Alyssa and I have checks and balances, but this is something that happened today to Alyssa and I. She listens to this. She's really going to yell at me for this. So we really want to put new windows in the house. We are really hesitant to spend the money in our savings to do it because it's a lot of money.
You don't want to strip
I mean,
it.
we're going to be, it's going to be $10,000 to
Yeah.
do new windows in our house.
Yeah.
And so we talked about a home equity line of credit. Like what else do what are our options?
Yeah.
We know what we want our payment to be. We've got money to put down on it so that we can reduce the overall cost. But I want to finance it so that so we're not spending all of our savings.
Yeah.
Heaven forbid an emergency were to pop
Right.
up and we've just spent all of that money. And so her and I were talking this morning. We had a third guy come today to measure. He's a Amish guy that does a lot of work for me in Berlin. Super nice guy. But he doesn't take a credit card. So we're going to have to pay this guy cash.
Does he do a discount for cash or check?
No.
Darn.
No.
Well, I guess if that's the only thing he offers, then he wouldn't.
Right, exactly. So we haven't gotten his quote yet, but so I said to Alyssa, like, home equity line of credit, we should really consider this. And she says, absolutely not. That was the end of the conversation. And I left. And I always struggle with it when she does that because I always feel like, what is wrong with the idea? So wrong with the idea that she just says no so quickly.
Like shuts it down right away.
So I get to work and I sit down at my desk and she sends me a text. Hey, we can do the home equity line of credit if you want. Sorry for shutting you down so quickly. I just thought the payment would be out of our budget. And I thanked her for apologizing, but that is my wife as the polar opposite. She wants every penny to be saved, every dollar to go somewhere important.
Yeah.
And I get it, but there are also sometimes like I want to go on vacation. I want to do fun things. So we have to find that balance
the
in
middle.
being able to save, but being able to live life because heaven forbid something were to happen to one of us and we don't get to do those things anymore. So I don't want to be so stingy with my money that we're just saving and
save.
giving and doing all of
You
those
can't
things.
take it with you.
Well, and the big part is I want to be able to the hard-earned money that we have, the work that we do to earn that money, I want to be able to enjoy it as well. I want to be able to go with my kids to Disney. I want to be able to celebrate with my wife on our anniversary and things like that. So there's definitely a fine balance to not overspending, but not being too frugal where you don't feel like you're ever allowed to spend.
I agree.
But my wife can be really selfish sometimes. She can be.
I saw she went to the American Girl doll.
Okay, but that's the difference. All right, so let's talk about that for a second. Yeah.
She was living vicariously through Adeline.
That's the problem. But I can't live vicariously through my boys by taking them to the Lego store and buying a $700 Lego. I can tell you that. I come home with a $700 Millennium Falcon, somebody getting beat with a stick.
Well,
But they wanted it.
Well, it doesn't. So she goes to the American Girl store. So they're closing the one in Easton Town Center in Columbus. So there won't be another one in Ohio. And I had bought Alyssa, this is going to sound really silly to a lot of people, but I had bought Alyssa an American Girl doll as an adult because she always wanted one as a kid and her mom could never afford one. So one year for Christmas, I bought her one. And it had never had its hair done and yada, yada, yada. So we had kind of like passed that down to Adeline, but it had been in her closet. But Adeline had gotten some of the smaller American Girl dolls, and Alyssa had always said she wanted to take her to let her get the girls' hairs done. So she had decided she was going to make that trip. So before they closed, and the whole store was on clearance. I mean, it was deeply discounted. But Adeline comes home with a bag full of stuff. She takes the boys to the Lego store and buys the boys Legos, and I'm like, dude, like.
Like, I didn't get this invite.
Yeah, right. Well, I did, but it was Land Cruise week, so I had to work. And I was like, that's bogus. That's not even-
She set that up pretty well.
Yeah, because I would have enjoyed just being there to spend the money. Like, just let me slide the card. Just let me put the chip in, because I don't care who it's for if I just get to spend the money. Now, here's the fun part of that. We went to the store, went to the mall, I don't know, a week later, and Easton and Emmett both needed new basketball shoes. They're both playing basketball. Easton walks in. He goes, that's the pair I want. We find him in a size. We put him on. He's good to go. And Emmett's like, no, I think I'm going to keep my red and black ones, which he's been wearing his regular tennis shoes, not just basketball shoes. Turns out he wanted a pair of Hey Dudes. So
he compromised.
Yes, correct. So he compromised. So we took him. We bought him a pair of Hey Dudes. While he was looking at the Hey Dudes, I find this amazing pair of Skechers. Okay. Amazing pair of Skechers. Now, here's why I call them amazing. They are slip-ons, but they're sneakers, okay? But they've got a hard back, so you just put your foot on it and you slide them
and
in.
you don't need your hands. I have a pair. They're like pregnancy.
Okay, I'm getting old and fat, okay?
Old and fat.
I can't bend over to put my shoes on. Like, listen, I grunt when I hike my leg up to put my socks on.
Makes
now.
us feel
But
better.
you have an excuse.
I know.
I don't.
Now, the ones that I have, they're not Skechers. They're, I don't know what brand
But
they
still.
are, but they're for like kids, which it's kind of stupid. Like, they're for kids that don't know how to tie their shoes or don't want to learn. And I'm like, oh, I don't really like that, you know, but.
Well, these were for grown men, so that's not the case. And so
Old grown men.
Yeah.
Sure, why not?
Desperately want a pair. And she's like, you're never buying those shoes. Never, ever.
For my treadmill that I just had to have.
Okay, thank you. I can't run on the treadmill because my running shoes aren't comfortable, so I need to buy these shoes in order to. And if I can slip them on and off, I'm more likely to run than if I have to tie them.
Yeah.
See,
Right.
Good excuses though, right? She's like, absolutely not. So she's taking me through the store and showing me the ones that she says that I can have, even though none of them are any shit thing that I'm going to wear. Okay, so we leave the store and I'm just razzing her about these shoes. Like, you won't ever let me have anything I want. Like, it's all about you. Yada, yada, yada. I walk into the office today and one of my owners, the oldest one, it's the dad and the two sons, the dad, he's got the exact same pair of shoes.
Yeah, so Alyssa's like, aren't you glad that I didn't let you buy those?
So, I haven't told her yet, but I'm going to tell her when I get home tonight. But they looked so comfortable. I said, are those slip-ons? And he goes, yeah,
Yep.
why? I said, because I really wanted a pair. My wife told me I couldn't have them. He goes, because they're old man shoes. So I ended up getting a pair of Nikes that looked similar, but I have to tie them. So dumb. So dumb.
Defeats the purpose.
Yeah, I know,
They
right?
didn't have them with Velcro on them.
No, listen, I said that to her. I said, don't test me. I said, you tell me I can't have slip-ons, I'm going to get Velcro shoes, and then you're really not going to be happy. It's bad enough with the Crocs, I guess. I don't know.
My.
But again, that's part of that instant gratification for me, too. I could have stood there and made 100 excuses why I should have bought those shoes. Had she not been with me, I'd have had them.
Well,
Guaranteed.
With wealth, the responsibility to steward that wealth.
Yeah. All right.
Trusting that God has blessed you to be a blessing and that he will keep blessing you as he sees fit. Our job isn't to keep. Our job is to work hard, invest well, and give generously.
Yeah. So with great power comes great responsibility. Yada, yada, yada. I get it. Well, here, then I'll make another compromise. I'll donate my old shoes if I can get any. Does that
Take
work?
them to the boutique.
Yeah, take them to the boutique. Oh, speaking of buying things that you think are going to be worth money, let me tell a boutique story. I don't like to go to Goodwill. I'm not interested in Goodwill at all. The smell when you walk through the door is enough for me, right? Like some people, maybe that's their jam. I don't know. Beth, do you like that smell?
I don't like the smell, but I like the bargain.
Yeah.
So Alyssa and I were out one night. We didn't have anything to do. I think the kids were with my dad. We had gone to Menards to pick something up for work, and we're like, we'll just stop in and go in. And I said, well, maybe we'll see Beth and Holly. So we walk in, and we're standing by the men's clothing racks, and we're looking at men's shoes, and just kind of like poking around, and I see this pair of LeBron James Nike shoes, and they are god-awful ugly, but they're like floral print on the inside, and they're like pastels on the outside, and I look them up, and on eBay, they're like $600 for a used pair of shoes. These things are $22. I'm like, buying them. We're going to list them. And Alyssa's like, yeah, let's see if we can get some money out. Those things have been listed on eBay for I can't tell you how long. I can't get rid of them to save my life. At $50, I can't get rid of it. So it's one of those, like, you always think it's going to be a good investment.
And if it's like, you don't specialize in shoes.
No.
So it's like, you specialize in Pokemon and Elvis.
Yeah, no,
so
even
stick
then.
with that
Even
stuff.
then, I don't. Even then, I don't. Even then.
I've actually always done very well with anything I bought and invested in
not
and sold
me.
later. I
Yeah.
always have.
Me
but,
neither.
But that's not the
Me
point. You know,
I mean,
Well,
I have to give my wife all the credit in the world for having any, responsibility with money and taking it seriously like an adult. Because before, like you said, I mean, it just
when I was
gotta have it.
When I was single, like before, her and I were just talking about this. I don't know how. I don't know why she married me. I can't, like, for the life of me, can't figure it out.
Yeah, my wife saw my finances before we got married.
Yeah.
And I thought, I'm done.
This is it. Yeah.
This is it.
Mine wasn't even my finances. My wife saw my house. Like, that should have been enough. So
It's like a museum.
no, it
Pokemon
wasn't even
and
that. It was
Elvis.
really just like a lot of junk. But like, so I lived in a townhouse in Yerkesville, and I remember like the first time she came over, and we were like, she was kind of like seeing, because I had 3 bedrooms, but I was the only one there at the time, and so like I took her on a tour of the kids' bedrooms, and I opened my bedroom door, and I have a king bed, this god-awful Elvis lamp that if you've heard the stories, you know that the Elvis lamp still lives in our house because she fell in love with this ugly thing. But in the other corner of the bedroom were 2 cockatiels. It was a breeding pair of cockatiels.
Oh my God.
Right. So, like, she should have known then that I was a little bit crazy. Like, who keeps birds in their bedroom? Right? And somehow she still married me. I don't know. I really don't. Not only did she marry me, but she took the Elvis lamp with us. That's the hard part. That's the part I'm really struggling with.
She married the Elvis lamp.
Yes,
Wow.
yeah, I think that's the case. Yeah, if we ever divorce, she's taking the lamp.
yeah.
She's already said it.
For
So,
sure.
Yeah.
Please tell me you didn't feed the birds to something.
I was just going to say, what happened
No,
to
no,
the
no,
birds?
no, no, no. Okay, so this is another
I'm
kind
just thinking Dumb and Dumber right now.
of Petey. What's wrong with Petey?
The blind kid.
The reason that I got the birds, it was a breeding pair, and they were really, really good about making babies, and I had decided I was going to breed cockatiels, and I was going to sell cockatiels. Again, this is one of those crazy things that happens in my mind that I think is a good idea. It turned out to be a terrible idea. When I got them, they never had a single baby, not one. But their names were Elvis and Priscilla. How could I
yeah,
not?
you had to.
Right? How could I not? So Elvis and Priscilla ended up going to live with a guy that worked at Walmart. His name was Ronnie. You guys remember him? Long white beard, was a door greeter.
I feel like.
Oh, yeah.
You guys were like, he was kind of like a permanent
I think so.
fixture, but he raised birds. Would you believe he got those birds? They started having babies.
Because he knew what he was doing.
Exactly. Yes, he knew what he was doing. I was
They
like,
knew they would be taken care
Yes.
of.
yeah. So I don't.
Well, the birds, like, we had one, I think I was like 5 or 6 when we moved into Water Street, and we had one. But they're very, like, particular, because where we had them, it was like a room that was added on, so it had a step down, so it was like 5 degrees colder than normal. And they died. I mean, they died.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. They're
They don't like you can't put them close to a window when there's a draft.
That's what I was gonna
Like,
say.
They'll get sick, and I had really telling on myself with some of this stuff, but I had parakeets for a long time. I thought, like, birds are amazing pets, right? They're not. They're the worst pets. They're probably the worst pets ever. But I had a bunch of parakeets, and I went to the store one day, went to the pet store to get bird food, and they had this beautiful yellow parakeet. Tweety, right?
Sure.
Who doesn't need one more parakeet?
You already have 2.
No, I had more than 2. It was a lot more than 2.
I was going to say,
It was a lot more than 2. So I buy Tweety. I take Tweety home. I put Tweety in the cage. About 6 days later, Tweety's dead in the bottom of the cage, and the other birds are like pecking it. I didn't know that, like, when a bird gets sick, the others will kill it so that it doesn't spread the disease. But apparently that's a thing. So Tweety dead in the bottom of the cage. I have to fish Tweety out, like get him out of the cage, and then all of the other birds just start dropping dead because they had
The
gotten
stress
whatever
probably- well,
disease Tweety had. I killed like 12.
How many birds did you
Don't let your wife listen to this.
Bird killer.
She's really going to judge me. It wasn't my fault. Like, I didn't know that they would get, I had no idea.
I wouldn't have
And
been.
how do you check a bird for, like, bird disease? Like,
Right?
you get a
Yeah.
blood test? I don't know.
It had bird flu.
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I was like, this is bizarre.
So how many birds did you have at one point?
Well, I never had all of them at one time. So in the when I was in my parakeet phase, because they were cheap, you could buy them for like $12.
Yeah.
They were really inexpensive. I think I had 6 together
Okay.
in my parakeet phase. When I did cockatiels, I only ever had 2 at a time, ever. I had one. His name was Kramer. He was my favorite. Kramer could talk. Like, I had taught him to talk, but I called him Kramer because of his hair. You know?
Yeah.
Yes.
So he could talk, but he was an albino cockatiel. Super sweet bird. Loved him. I don't know whatever happened to him. I don't remember. I had to have given him away.
Perfect.
I had to have given him away. But he was one of my favorites. Then I went to Elvis and Priscilla, had the breeding pair. It was like never doing that again. And then I saw somebody in Port Washington or somewhere that had a pair or a cockatiel that they were giving away. This is fairly recent. And I was like, let's get him. We got him. We named him Bruno. We don't talk about Bruno because Bruno had to go bye-bye. Because Bruno would screech non-stop. Now, these people are like,
Even
oh,
if you covered him up
he's-
at night,
no, he would, when you covered him up, but he lived most of his life at our house covered up because he would not stop screeching. So
Yeah.
we got him and you couldn't handle him. But the people told us, oh, he's really quiet. He's really docile. All of those things were lies. Like this
Yeah.
bird, I was like,
Like, why are
nah.
you getting rid
Well,
of
they
them?
just wanted to get rid of him.
Well, they said that
Exactly.
they couldn't keep him anymore because they couldn't care for him.
Uh-huh.
So we ended up giving him his cage. We bought him this really nice cage, the like magnetic cover, the whole bit.
Yeah.
We got him this we ended up giving him away to a friend of Alyssa's who was, we were like, we can't take it anymore. Just please come
We'll
get
pay
the
you
bird.
$20
Yeah,
here.
come get this bird. And that bird is living happily ever after
Huh.
with another cockatiel. They're like,
Oh, hey.
all is well.
Brand
that
new
ends well.
cage?
Yep. Yep.
There you go.
But so we're a hard no pet policy in our house. So that means we can't take our kids to Petco or PetSmart or because every ferret, chinchilla, hamster, squirrel, baby
Yeah.
raccoon, guinea pig that they see,
Yeah.
we need one.
Yeah.
And then they cry the whole way out of the store. I'm like, you guys won't even feed the dogs.
Yeah.
Like, we're not doing this.
Yeah, we will. Yeah, we will.
Yeah, exactly.
And a lot of the times, like when you get this is so off topic, but when
We
you
can talk about the rat again if we want to talk about the rat again. I'm just saying, like, we know we are not pet people.
But when you get pets, like from the pet store, like I had a chinchilla, the thing was a spaz.
Yes.
Because I think its first 3 years was only the pet store.
Yep.
So it was like traumatized.
It's
So-
not handled properly.
No, so it
Yeah.
would only stay in his igloo,
Yeah.
and like I was like picturing myself walking down Water Street with a leash with him.
Yeah.
Like nope, he would not get out of his igloo. Like spaz.
That's the way. That was the way I always saw it with my birds too. That like you'd be able to just open the cage and they would just come out and play on the little
Yeah.
play place on the top and fly to you and talk to you.
Yeah.
And these birds instead are flapping around, smacking into the wall. I was like, this isn't working.
went
for
out.
me.
They went out.
Yeah, this isn't working for me. So. Yeah, definitely wasn't. I've learned that I am not so much a pet person as I like to believe.
Is that when you was working at the pet shop?
No. But that is another thing to think about too. So now I don't know that any of us sitting in here have this problem, but like when I worked at, I sold mattresses for a long time. I sold appliances and
always
electronics. You always want whatever it is that you like. Oh, I could get us a new mattress and we get a discount on it.
Yep.
So, but nurses, you work in a you're a steel plant. Like you're not
No.
often buying.
But I did
steel.
work at a bookstore for a while.
Yeah.
You had books.
And the owner said, I'll pay you in books instead of cash.
Oh.
Of course. I'm like,
Some
what?
history books.
Really?
Yeah. So sometimes I would take the books because
My one job in high school was at Maurice's, and I was like, okay. And I had a job before this, like I had to pay my own car insurance, phone bill, and gas. So I needed that enough money for that. And I think I went to Marshall's and got like 3 outfits to get started, just to because it didn't have to be from Maurice's, but it couldn't say like Aeropostale or something. I had like 12 things in the back, like to get ready to scan when I had my paycheck. And I'm like, you have a job for a reason. Like you can't put this all towards these clothes.
It is.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
So that's another thing that even after you're saved, that's a struggle, especially when you work in it every day.
Oh, yeah.
When I sold electronics, like I remember when I worked at Walmart. So, okay, fun story about my job at Walmart. I started at Walmart when I was they hired me when I was 17, but you had to be 18 to work at Walmart at the time. So I had to wait until my birthday was like 6 weeks, but they had hired me to work in the jewelry department. So the guy that interviewed me hired me, super nice guy. Still talk to him regularly. So started working at Walmart then, and pretty quickly I realized like I can do this job pretty well. So now I want to be a department manager. So I started working pretty hard, like kind of showing them what I could do. So they give me the front end merchandising. It's called Department 82 at the time. It's impulse buy. So all those little strips you see hanging at Walmart with batteries and all that stuff, it was that stuff plus all the candy and stuff at the checkouts. When I took over that department, we had 16, probably 24 feet of steel racking from the floor to the ceiling. So it was probably 5 or 6 levels full of pallets of stuff and just shopping carts full of return. So I busted my butt to clean that out. I got us down to 8 feet of steel. Like this was all a very big deal. Like most Walmarts weren't able to do this. They moved me from there to grocery back manager, and I was probably 1,000 pallets in that back room, and we cleared them so there was nothing on the floor. That floor had never been cleared for as long as I'd been there, but that was our goal, getting inventory under control. So anyhow, I decide that I'm going to quit Walmart. So I'm going to do something different. So I quit. I'm making great money too. Like why I ever thought this was a good idea, I don't know. And the store manager called me after I had quit, and she said, "Hey, I've got electronics opening up. Do you want to come work through Christmas in electronics?" And I was, "Sure. I can do that, make a little extra cash." She paid me really well, but I wasn't managing anything. All I had to do was come in and work shifts. After I got there, the manager quit, and she offered me the full-time job. I take the job. Now, what do you think I'm doing the entire time that I worked there? Buying electronics, tons of electronics. I had a rear light projection television this is not a joke, that I bought on clearance for $75. It was like 55 inches. This thing was stupid big. I had to like rent a U-Haul to pick it up and take it because you've seen a rear projection TV. Like they're huge. Like not even thinking about the size of the TV, but just the depth of this TV. Okay, so I buy that. And next thing I know, I've got 3 computers. And I'm like, what is happening? But I have always struggled with that because if it's cheap or it's a deal, I want to buy it. But what am I going to do with it? So I have always struggled with that, but I'm thankful that, again, just like you, Nick, my wife is incredibly savvy, incredibly intelligent. And if I overspend, she lets me know.
Yeah. And I still get some great stuff. It's not like I had to stop collecting altogether.
Yep.
It's just that, I
Just
had to
slow down.
Yeah. And she makes sure that, we still do a lot of really cool stuff. And like I said, I still, I just got some really cool stuff for Christmas to add to my collection. Yeah. So, it's all working out. But
in fairness, your wife got a really cool gift for Christmas too. Did you buy her that little skating doll?
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. Like that thing's in like pristine condition.
Yeah. She had talked about that for a few years because she had it when she was a kid. She just got it, and I believe her sister broke the leg off or something.
Oh, geez.
So she didn't really get to play with it. And I'd seen them here or there, but I finally found the one that was from a doll shop in Chicago. Like that's all they do is these vintage dolls. So this thing is pristine, never taken out of the box. All the accessories are still there. All the tags
even the
are still there.
And the tags,
so it was just, and
cool.
The price was amazing.
Nice,
So she really got a kick out of that.
Yeah.
Something that was just said reminded me. I opened up the baby book and I'm like, I'm going to start this because there's things before like, oh, what did you say when you first found out and this and that? And I'm like asking Chase, I'm like, okay, it's asking what we thought whenever we found out, that I was pregnant. And he's
there
like,
goes my Pokemon collection.
he's like, I don't have enough money for this. I'm like, but really, like you're never truly going to be
no
prepared like you want to be.
Yeah.
Somebody said that to me about something else. I don't remember what it was that I wanted to do, and they said, it was so I have a business coach that I meet with every couple of weeks. He works with our company, meets with all of our executives, and we work with him for like our core values and things like that. And he said to me, but what you're talking about is if you're ever ready for an acquisition, buying, building, anything like that, he said, you're never truly ready.
Right.
He said, it's just like having a kid. If you say, well, let's wait till we're ready, you'll never have a kid. You'll never buy. You'll never build. So yeah, we've learned really quickly that we don't wait. We just do whatever.
Well, and even, I kind of made him feel better because I've been talking with my friend from high school and like she financially needs like her parents to help them every now and then because they have a little baby.
Yeah.
But it's like, Chase, at least like we're not like we have this savings account that we
Right.
now started, and like
Yeah.
we're never going to be that,
Yeah.
like that. So
Yeah. Lord willing, it'll never get to that point.
absolutely, yeah, right. But
That's it. Yeah. It is funny though. You have to make the adjustment in your
Mm-hmm.
life once you're ready to do those things. Once you're
Yep.
ready to, and even buying a house. When
Oh,
Alyssa
yeah.
and I decided we were going to buy a house, we took all the money that we had, and we were prepared to use it for the down payment on the house. And we knew what we could afford for the down payment, so we knew what the buying price had to
Right.
be, and we bought in Dover.
Mm-hmm.
And for those of you who don't know, Dover recently built a new high school.
yeah,
And when they figured out our mortgage payment and our down payment and all of those things, they figured it with preschool taxes. So with the
the old school.
correct.
Wow.
So the day before closing, they call us and they say, "Hey, you're going to need to bring an extra $3,000 to closing." And I said, "Absolutely not. We can't do
Yeah.
it. Like we can't buy it then."
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "I don't have an extra $3,000 to bring to closing.
Yeah.
Like this is what we agreed on, and I need if it can't be that, we can't do it."
Yeah.
So I hung up with him. He's like, "Okay, well, I don't really know what to say." So we hang up with him, and I call my real estate agent right away, who doesn't answer the phone because the lender had called him before I could,
Oh.
and my real estate agent said, "Hey, we're going to work this out. Don't stress about it. Like, we're going to figure this out. Don't just plan to show up tomorrow to sign all of the paperwork." So the finance guy calls me back and he says, "Hey, we got it all worked out. Down payment's the same. Here's your payment. Like everything is squared away." And I was like, "Okay, great." So we sign the paperwork, buy the house. 9 months in, we get a letter from the mortgage company that our mortgage is going up. You know what they did? They worked it with the pre-tax numbers. They worked it with the old numbers. So our escrow was upside down. We didn't have enough money in escrow to pay the taxes.
Yeah.
So our mortgage went up in order to cover those taxes. I was like, that was dirty. That was dirty. But that's what they did.
Yeah.
And so looking back, now we know to look for those things, but
Right.
we didn't know that at the time.
Yeah.
But we were willing to put everything that we had aside so that we could buy that house. Like we knew that we were ready for that step. We wanted our own place. We wanted to be able to do what we wanted with it. And I think if you were to ask Alyssa, although as a fun point of order, right after we bought that house was the very first time I ever thought my wife was going to divorce me, which is not funny. It's looking back, it's like, okay, that was wild. But that was when I realized that my wife is smarter than I am, and I should probably listen to whatever it is that she has to say to me. Even if I don't agree, I need to at least listen. So that was that's when we really started to grow, when we made a commitment to one another. I always tell her she's not on the mortgage, but she is on the deed. But I keep telling her, it's my house. That doesn't work, by the way.
Yeah. See, Chase.
Few things do.
Yeah, right.
Chase-
Especially when it comes to stuff like that.
Chase has that on me because he bought the house before
you,
me,
yeah.
and he's always like, "The name's on the deed," and I'm like, "Oh my gosh."
You tell him once the ring's on, half of everything is yours.
Yep, that's what I'm like. But yours is mine.
Oh boy. Yeah, it was a big moment for us when we realized like we were going to start to save, buy a house, and do all of those things. We really had to make an adjustment in our lives, but it wasn't until we really started to tithe that the financial strains that we had felt had kind of come back full circle.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
I think God wants us to have nice things.
Yeah. Yeah.
As long as we're not putting those things
Yes.
before
Before
Him.
Him.
Correct. Yeah, and people say, "Oh, money is the root of all evil." No, the love of money.
Yes.
The love of
Yes.
money
Yes.
is the root of
The
all evil.
addiction of it.
When
Yes.
you have to, so when you think about, my business advisor asked me, he said, "So, hey man, what's going on with you personally? Like, what's one personal goal?" I said, "Spend more time at home." And he said, "Well, what do you mean?" And I said, "Well, this job is a large portion of my life. Like, I'm here all day." I said, "And even when I'm not here, I'm answering phones, texts,
Right.
emails, whatever."
You're not
I
fully
said, "And
present.
so I want to be at home with my kids and spend time with them." And he said, "All right, I'm going to challenge you with something." I said, "What's that?" He said, "When you walk through the door, when you're ready to turn
be
off,
home.
when you're ready to be home, take your socks off." And I said, "What?" He said, he said, "I'm going to ask you, are you feeling your toes? You feel your feet?" He said, "Because that's what allows you, like your brain will connect with, my shoes are off, my socks are off, I'm home.
I'm home.
I'm home now. Like this is
Yeah.
home, Michael, not work, Michael."
That's true.
So it's like,
Yeah.
it's the mental turn off.
Like I said
Absolutely.
before,
It's a good idea.
like if you need to do something or if you need to leave, don't take those shoes off
Yeah.
because
you don't want to put them back
don't
on.
go sit on the couch because you're not going to want to get back up and put them back on.
What he said was you'll realize how inconvenient it is to put your socks back on.
Yeah.
So when you have to do something for work, it's inconvenient and it's taking time away from your family. It's gonna create that trigger in your brain that says, "Do I have to do this right now?"
Anytime I take my socks off too, like I'm not putting those ones back on.
Yes, right.
I have to go find a new clean pair.
I don't care if I have them on for 15 seconds. If I peel once they're off my feet,
Same.
they're
That's like
used.
one thing that I'm like, nope.
Yeah. I'm really funny about my toothbrush too. I always have a surplus of toothbrushes. I like a firm toothbrush. Like I want it to make my gums bleed. But I always have 5 or 6 toothbrushes in backup in the medicine cabinet. Like,
you don't like the super soft.
no.
Until you have to have surgery.
Yeah.
Where they remove part of your palate to put that on your gums.
Hey, listen, I love going to the dentist, and the dentist said that she's like, we never have a problem with your teeth. She's like, you do such a nice job brushing. And I'm like, that's because I brush till they bleed.
Me too.
Like,
I had to have surgery.
yeah.
So.
Well, I haven't yet. Knock on wood. I don't have to.
Well, you're not quite old enough
Yeah.
yet.
But, well, I don't know.
Thanks, Roger.
Hey, I got to get my digs in somewhere.
My wife is younger than me, and almost everything in her mouth is fake. Like, she doesn't have, my gosh, I've never met somebody who has as much dental work as she does. I have to take out a second mortgage on the house to pay for her dental work. But what was I saying before that? Oh, just the weird things that I have.
Yeah.
But I always have a stack of toothbrushes because when I pull that toothbrush out, I'm like, ew. I want to be able to throw it away and get a fresh one. And I'm really weird about that. Like, if I get sick, and it doesn't matter what kind of sick. If I am sick, that toothbrush goes to the trash and a new one comes out.
That's good though.
Yeah.
That's a good habit.
I don't like a dirty toothbrush.
I had a cleaning today, so I need to take off my head and put a new one.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Mine's silverware. Nobody's going to take the last fork from this fat girl.
Do you have like a certain fork that you use?
it's engraved.
No. I mean, no.
Well, we were
But
talking about
I always
this.
have an extra set hid
Oh,
someplace.
okay. Well, we
funny.
were talking about it at my hairdresser because she was like, I was at there for lunch and she was like, "Do you want some soup?" I'm like, "Wow, sure." Besides the point. But then she was talking about she's like, "Are you guys weird? Like, do you have to have your own spoon and your own fork?" I said,
No.
I said, but I have small spoons and small or big
Yeah,
spoons.
yeah.
I said, the only thing I'll use like a small spoon for is cereal because it lasts longer that way.
Well, I want the long tongs on the fork. I don't want those little short ones.
Yes.
Yeah. You want more of like a dinner fork, not a salad. You don't want that little dinky.
Yeah.
I had to use like the salad fork yesterday for dinner because the rest of them were in the dishwasher, and I let Chase have the big one, and I was like, this feels so
Oh,
weird.
you know what that little one's good for?
What?
Dunkin' Oreos.
Oreos. Just stick the Oreo on the end.
Hey,
See,
That
I
way-
prefer
that
the
way you
little
don't get-
fork. I prefer the dinner fork.
Yeah.
I used to, but
I do.
I don't know.
So we went to IKEA one time and we bought spoons and forks. See, my kids throw them away. Like they'll.
Oh, yeah, that has happened at my house, too, when the
'cause
grandkids are there.
We don't use regular plates. Everything is disposable in our house because we could never keep the dishwasher empty if that were the case. So we'll tell them, okay, make sure you throw your plate away, and they just throw the plate and the fork away or the spoon, whatever. So we were at IKEA one day and we're like, oh, these are kind of cute. Let's buy these. And we get them home and they're like half the size of a regular spoon. So like these little midgy.
Almost like a toddler one. Like,
yeah, but they're
kinda.
supposed to be for adults, but they're very much so not.
got
So-
it.
Anywhere for Weight Watchers.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So we buy that set, we take them home. And so like our silverware set doesn't match. There's just so much like these little spoons, these little forks. And I'm talking the little forks are like, they're a joke. They're a joke. But everybody in my house prefers those over the big forks because they're lighter. Like they feel better in your hand, but they're like, you got a full length fork. These are like 3/4 length forks, and it's really strange. But they prefer them, but you can't buy them anymore. So I can't ever get a matching set of silverware. But that's something that drives me nuts. Not having a matching set of silverware.
Me too.
When I take stuff out of the dishwasher and it doesn't match, makes my skin crawl.
Doesn't bother me at all.
As long as you got a fork.
As long as I got a fork. If I go to an auction and there's a box of silverware, it's mine.
That's funny. That's funny.
Where else but this podcast would we get this much diverse
Yeah,
information?
conversation. Yeah. Now you know what kind of forks we like.
I mean,
Yeah, right.
we've covered a lot tonight.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if we've hit the topic, but we've covered a lot.
Money is always a touchy subject.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
not even in church. Like, church, yes, but in general,
Well,
you know,
there are 3 things that you're not supposed to talk about, or that
Yes.
we're told not to talk about: politics, religion, and money.
and money.
Yes.
They're the 3 things that you're not allowed to talk
There's
about.
2 right here: religion and money.
Yeah, but what I was going to say is I think that that's where the world has gone wrong. I
Yes.
think when we tell each other that we're not allowed to talk about it, we don't grow.
Yeah,
Like,
nope.
if I can't say to you, "Oh, well, that I don't understand why you would say that." Like, let's have a
Elaborate,
conversation.
right.
Yeah, like I want to understand what
Yeah.
you're saying.
Explain that
Yeah,
to me.
because
Doesn't mean I'm forcing my opinion on you. Yeah.
But because we can't have those conversations, I think that we struggle to
Yeah.
ever really grow.
I agree.
And that's why we're growing together.
Haha.
Whoa.
See what I did there?
But sometimes you just
Cue
have
the
to be,
music.
sometimes you just have to be honest with yourself. Like, I'm not good with money.
Right.
You know, that's okay. You have to be honest with yourself and be willing to say, I'm not good
Yep.
with money.
Yep.
Yep.
You
I
know?
got to
And they
count.
made me
Yeah,
a
I-
treasure.
Yeah, but you have Jarvey to help you.
That's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
True.
And he is good with money.
Well, can I share one more verse?
Yes, absolutely. And then
So Luke
we'll
12,
wrap up.
33, 34. Jesus urges us to give our money to help the poor, because where your treasure is, there will your heart be also.
Yes.
Amen.
Amen. Well, let's go ahead and wrap up. Sid, since you've got to leave, we're going to make you pray for us, okay?
Okay. All right. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, I just thank you for this time that we had here tonight, Lord. I thank you for everyone's opinions. We all came from, different stages in our life, past and previous. Just letting us all put in our 2 cents, no matter what, Lord. I just pray that we all have safe travel mercies. In your name, amen.
Amen.
Amen.